We're back in the studio and we're going to tell you the 11 reasons why people love Cuenca, Ecuador.
Starting with number 1, and that is you don't need a car.
Nope. Cuenca is super walkable.
Yeah, when we lived there, we lived in El Vergel. It took us about 20 minutes to walk from our house to El Centro and Parque Calderon. When we stayed there on this trip, we stayed in an Airbnb by Parque de la Madre, which is right on the edge of El Centro. So we were able to walk everywhere.
Yeah, and there's other neighborhoods where you could walk to local restaurants and mercaditos or even Supermaxi and mercados, because there's lots of mercados in Cuenca as well.
Lots of little mercaditos in the neighborhoods and restaurants and coffee shops in each of the neighborhoods. So you don't even have to leave your neighborhood to get a lot of the things that you want.
But if you don't want to walk, you can take public transportation because there's lots of buses and they are cheap.
Yeah, they run all the time and all over the city.
You can also take the Tranvia, which, JP, we did not do on our last visit.
No, we saw it. It's working.
It is working.
I had doubts that it would ever run, but it's running.
Yes, and if you just want to buy a one-way ticket, a one-time ticket, it's $1, but you can get a Tranvia pass, and the fares are 35 cents each way that way.
Or is it Tranvia?
Tranvia, sorry.
She Spanglished it.
Yes. There's also a lot of taxis available.
Yeah, and the taxis, the minimum fare is $1.50, so don't be surprised if you go a short distance and the meter says it's like 75 cents, but then they want to charge you $1.50 because that is the minimum fare. That got us when we first moved there a couple times. We're like, wait, the meter says 75. And they're like, sorry, it's $1.50 minimum.
Uber is not available in Cuenca, but you can use the SOOO taxi app, which we used all the time, and it works great.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to that in the description. We use it all the time. It's really nice. The taxi will come to your place where you're starting, and it doesn't prepay, so it's not a credit card based system like Uber, so you do still have to pay them when you get out of the cab. So don't think you're going to get out like with Uber and just walk away. They'll yell at you.
Yeah, we've never felt like we needed to have a car when we lived in Cuenca.
No, in fact, we still don't have a car, and we've been in Ecuador almost 5 years. And we have talked about it, but every time we get to the decision point, we decide not to.
Number 2, Cuenca is very clean.
Yeah, we used to have what I called the blue crew when we lived there, and those are the street sweepers who go around and pick up all the trash. They got new uniforms, they're green, so I guess we got to call them the green cleaners now instead of the blue crew, but they achieve the same result. They keep that city sparkling clean.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of points for trash and recycling.
In our last video, we showed a recycling center in Parque de la Madre. Also, Supermaxi El Vergel now has a recycling centers where you can recycle pretty much everything from plastic bags up to those Tetra packs.
And styrofoam.
And styrofoam too, so that's really nice if you want to recycle all of your stuff.
Yes, Cuenca does have graffiti, but graffiti is an art form here in Ecuador. What we have noticed is that we see these beautiful murals, but not a lot of the tagging that I think people associate with graffiti in other parts of the world.
We get that question a lot about what's up with all the graffiti, and there's actually a movement in Cuenca to paint over the stuff that is not artwork.
Number 3. Cuenca is a beautiful old world city.
Yeah, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means it has a lot of cultural and historical significance. And you can see that as you walk around El Centro. It feels like you're back in the old world.
Yeah, I love all the different neighborhoods with the different architectural styles, and each area has its own little square. My favorite part of Cuenca is Pumapungo, where you could go and experience some of the Ecuadorian and Cuenca history and artifacts like shrunken heads, and then go out into the grounds and see the Inca ruins and experience the beautiful plants. Oh my gosh, I just love it.
Yeah, the Spanish version of Cuenca is about 500 years old, but the area is a lot older than that because the Inca were there before the Spanish, and before them, the indigenous people have lived there for thousands of years. So there's a ton of historical significance in that area.
Before we share the next reason why people love Cuenca, Ecuador, we want to let you know about our newsletter.
Yes, every Friday we send out a newsletter with expat relevant news in English. It's a really good way for us to share current events in a timely manner that doesn't really fit our normal video schedule.
I do the research and pull the news from Ecuadorian websites, and JP writes the story.
It's totally free and you can opt out at any time. There's no obligation. And it's just a really good way to stay connected to Ecuador, especially if you're planning a visit or a move here.
Check below for the link where you can opt in, and you'll get immediate access to our past newsletters and our cost of living calculator. Number 4, Cuenca has a lot of natural beauty.
Yeah, there are several rivers that run through the city. They are beautiful. Each river has linear parks with walking trails that you can go exercise on, and a lot of people walk their dogs and jog on those trails. There's also a bunch of parks throughout the city, like Parque Paraíso, which we featured in our birding video. Also Parque de la Madre. There's just a bunch of parks there and a lot of green space in Cuenca.
Yes, and there's so many beautiful trees and birds. There's so many variety of birds, lots of hummingbirds, and it's close to the Cajas National Park.
Cajas has both lower and upper. So if you go to lower, it's more like a jungle environment with amazing panoramic mountain views. You're going to see llamas down there and lots of birds and maybe some other wildlife if you're lucky. Upper Cajas is cold, wear warm clothes. It's around 13,000 feet. It's often cloudy up there, but if you can get a blue sky morning, it is incredible.
Number 5, Cuenca is a cultural city, and it is known as the Athens of Ecuador.
Yeah, there are tons of museums in Cuenca. You can probably go to a different one every day. There's the old cathedral has a religious history museum. There's the Museum of Modern Art over in San Sebas. There's Pumapungo, which we've already talked about, which is the Inca history and indigenous people history. There are a bunch of private museums like Prohibido, which we featured in a previous video, and other cultural museums and galleries throughout the city.
There's also a wide variety of musical concerts that you could attend, whether you want to go and hear some classical music for free on Friday nights or go to the jazz club, maybe go to a nightclub and hear somebody playing some blues or rock and roll. There's concerts in the park. There is always stuff going on music-wise in Cuenca.
Number 6, my favorite thing, there are lots of free activities.
If you're into working out, all of the parks and neighborhoods have free workout equipment, and people use those all the time.
Yeah, and there's also free Zumba classes. They start at 6:40 a.m. and 8 p.m. I tried to get Amelia up one morning to go out and do the Zumba so I could film it, but she wasn't buying it.
No, it was a little too early for me. And in retrospect, I probably should have drug my butt out of there and done it, but it was kind of chilly.
Yeah. There's also a lot of free, like we mentioned, museums. All the public museums in Cuenca are free. And a lot of the other events and musical events like the Friday Orchestra is free too.
Yeah, and you'll find that the city is often doing some other types of fairs and they don't charge for any of that stuff.
Number 7, my second favorite thing is there are lots of restaurants.
Yeah, and we were surprised to see how many of the restaurants have changed, whether they had closed or moved. And there's a lot of new ones, so it was a good culinary time to be in Cuenca.
Yeah, we were a little sad though because 2 of our favorite places, Simon and Pedir de Boca, both closed. Simon was the very first restaurant we ate at when we came to Cuenca over 5 years ago. So we were really sad. We were hoping to go there and do a little reminiscing, but they weren't there.
Yeah, and some of the restaurants that we liked before had moved into our old neighborhood of El Burhel, so that was a surprise. Plus, there's new places like Pacari, which is very exciting to some of us. And that pizza place, JP, that Tres Pizza, wow.
Yeah, that was really good. That's on Tres de Noviembre, closer in El Centro. But our old neighborhood, El Burhel, is like Restaurant Row now. The street we used to live on is lined with restaurants. And man, I wish we would have had those when we lived there.
Although, I don't know, we probably would have eaten out too much. But there were some really nice new higher end restaurants in Cuenca and El Centro, like Madame, Negroni, and Zaza. And of course, we can't leave out Paradise, which will always be our favorite.
Our Indian food addiction, and Chinu and Ebby are like family now, so we can't forget them.
Number 8 is the affordable cost of living.
Yeah, it's actually one of the more affordable places in Ecuador, especially one of the most affordable, bigger cities in Ecuador. We get a lot of questions about our experience on the coast and how expensive the housing is there. It's because there's a housing shortage on the coast with a lot of Ecuadorians and expats moving there. In Cuenca, there is a housing surplus. So you're going to find a much better selection of affordable housing in Cuenca.
You can shop in the mercados because the food is less expensive. The restaurants are less expensive in Cuenca compared to some of the places on the coast and in the bigger cities such as Quito and Guayaquil. And healthcare is also much more affordable in Cuenca than Quito and Guayaquil. And we actually have several friends that have come into Cuenca from the coast to have their major procedures done because Not only is it cheaper, but the quality of healthcare in Cuenca is superb.
Number 9, there are very few bugs.
Yeah, that's the nice thing at living at higher elevation is that you're not going to have a ton of ginormous flying bugs and mosquitoes, but there are tarantulas, and we had a couple in our house.
Yeah, they weren't that big.
No.
Maybe the size of a $50, not the big ones that we saw on the coast. We hardly ever saw a mosquito when we lived in Cuenca, and usually that was just after a heavy rain. There are flies. You're going to see flies and fruit flies. We see those in abundance there, but there's just not a lot of other flying insects.
Cuenca also has these bugs called ututus. I think they're part of the stick bug family.
Yeah, they're harmless, but watch out, they spit.
Number 10, you can drink the tap water.
Yeah, we often get comments from people saying that they don't drink the tap water in Cuenca, even though it's chlorinated and considered safe to drink. Maybe in certain parts of the town it may not be as clean because the pipes may be older. Where we lived in El Berajel, we had all new water lines, so we felt perfectly safe drinking it. So we didn't worry about it, and we really liked the taste of Cuenca's tap water.
Yeah, and when we stayed in our Airbnb, we drank the tap water there as well, and we did not have any issues.
No, but if you do want to still drink bottled water, they do have the delivery services, and you can buy the big 5-gallon water like we used on the coast.
Number 11, the awesome, friendly people.
Yeah, the Cuencanos are generally very friendly people. They like expats. It's still the place with the most English-speaking Ecuadorians that we've been in Ecuador, even more than Guayaquil and Quito. You're going to find English speakers all over the place. Even a lot of the cab drivers speak English.
And they are helpful. Now, Ecuadorians don't always offer up information, but they definitely will help you if you ask. You just have to know to ask questions.
Yeah, there's a culture of not volunteering information here, so you just have to be prepared to ask follow-up questions and don't walk out without getting an answer.
But they are very, very friendly, very helpful people. We have lots of friends in Cuenca, and they are not just Ecuadorian. We have friends from all over the world.
Yeah, pretty much every continent. We find it really easy to meet people and make friends, really in Cuenca, but throughout Ecuador, because we do more things. We're out walking around more. We meet people at the restaurants. Amelia has met people at yoga class and her dance class when she used to belly dance in Cuenca.
Yeah, and we met people in our Spanish classes. We've got to know owners of restaurants, and it's just a lot easier in general, especially since we're not in our cars like we were all the time when we were in the United States.
Yeah, and also working. That was one of the things as adults. It's really hard to make new friends because we worked all the time when we were back in Denver and we commuted the rest of the time. So we never met anybody. But here it feels like it's just so much easier to make friends as an adult.
I know, and I just love the variety of people we meet.
If you've already been to Cuenca or you live there, let us know in the comments below what your favorite thing is.
And if you like this video, then leave us a like.
Yeah, and also check below for the link to that newsletter, and we will see you all in our next video.
Ciao.
Ciao.